going through love. Buongiorno.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back. It's another fabulous day
What's the
here in
vibe?
Charlotte, North Carolina, where
Okay.
the weather is a balmy 70 something degrees outside.
What's in that cup, Patrice?
It's a little lemonade.
Ice water.
Mm.
I'm always dehydrated.
Cheers.
Can't go wrong with some. Yeah.
Yeah.
I now feel like I need now I feel like we all need cups of water. Y'all don't feel left out?
I do feel left
All
out.
right. I feel left out.
That sounds like a you problem.
Wow. I'm feeling attacked.
I definitely feel
Charlotte
left
could
out.
be like, okay, bitch, keep playing.
Okay.
Who did that?
Sean, Cisco, you know.
Sean, I love the blonde.
Thank you.
It's very sexy. Now I definitely feel like I'm New York. I'm in New York. Oh shit!
What's
If I could,
going on?
So, I mean, I don't even know if we even live yet. Is this thing on? Is the red
I-
light thing? Is this thing on?
Excuse me.
I
Excuse me.
didn't get my charger. Hold on.
Is this thing
Yeah.
on? Is this thing on? I see the red light is on. So, we're gonna go ahead
Y'all
and
need
get
to be sharing this. Sharing this video right now. Make sure you go ahead and tune in. Make sure you be sharing it, streaming it. Streaming it.
That's right.
Screaming it.
That's
Sharing
right.
it and
I
streaming
get
it.
it.
Scream it
You
and
want to
scream.
be me? I admit it.
So
Okay.
you know, like, oh my gosh, Becky.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you guys for joining in on today. We're going to be having a conversation about a couple different things. My main topic today is going to be is HIV why is HIV still relevant? And why you need to be a part of that conversation. I before we dive into the conversation, I want to definitely go over and shout out to Crew, our sister organization that is
You want to take over?
yeah, go ahead.
All right, y'all. Y'all already know. We got to give a shout out to my babies, my space, my love crew, which stands for Community Resource Empowerment and Wellness. We specialize in substance use as it relates to harm reduction. So if you know anyone struggling with anything that's like, you know, as far as like smoking or if they're using, you know, injection drugs or anything of that sort, and they have an issue with coping with that, they don't know how, they don't have anybody to talk to, anyone to relate to, go ahead and send them over to me. I'm that guy. I'm that peer. So make sure you go ahead and get that email address. I'll put my phone number on my page as well. So stop playing. Come see me.
Also, don't forget to shout out Project Uplift.
Hello. Uplifting the people to where they need to be.
All right.
Where I wanna be.
So we're going to move this bitch right on along. We're going to go ahead and transfer, open up with keeping it hot, keeping it current, keeping up with Sean. Listen up. I don't know. I want to say keeping up with Sean. Listen up with
Like
Keep
keeping
it
Sean.
up with
hot.
Sean. Listen up. Are you the people listening? Are the people listening?
Hello.
We here. So look, I don't even have the order of what I'm gonna talk about, but I'm gonna bring one up first because there was so many different ones that I was just, you know, thinking about over the weekend and things that were occurring and happening. I was just a little confused. But let's just go ahead and bring up this first situation. Can y'all please tell me how you confuse a taser
I don't wanna.
with a gun?
I don't wanna. I don't want to.
Just make it make sense.
You
Make it make
can't.
sense.
Make it make sense.
It
It's
won't.
not going to. You can't make it.
I
It's
mean, it's
not happening.
literally like proof. That's like I don't.
Yeah.
Y'all, like, it takes a
Yeah.
lot because you really just y'all. It's all these situations happen back to back.
Mm-hmm.
It's just mind-boggling itself. Like it's a lot to mentally deal with and you're seeing it, and you're it's not much you really can do, because you weren't there during the time, or even now we still just hearing about it on the news or social media and that. So it's like you get this rage in you that's just like, are they ever going to get it?
No.
Are they ever going to get it?
Right.
Hey, Aunt. Hi, babies. No, they're not going to get it. It's going to continue to be what it is until they actually change it. It's going to have to be dismantled and redone. There is no way around it. I feel like if they want to keep the current system of crime and justice, then the police officers national organization needs to be paying these people every time they do this shit. It needs to come out of their pocket. You need to hit them in the pocket where they know what it is. You want to keep doing this dumb shit? Let me get that pension up off you.
I just feel like they make too much. The system makes too much money off of this kind of fear-based, thing that they have going on, where it's like, we want you to see all of this. We want you to build, we want you to build, buzz around this so we can make money off of this. That's why it keeps, that's why it keeps going on, because it's like they recognize that they can make money off of this. And it's like, okay, let's keep on doing this. But like Patrice said, until it's actually hitting them in their pockets where they have to pay for all of this, then it's not going to change.
Very true. Very true.
That is true. Jesse, Johnny,
Johnson?
You pose the question, like, how can you confuse a taser with a gun? We talked about this before a little bit. I think that they're just going through an excuse list, and they're like really digging deep and trying to figure out what they can tell the press, and they're just digging shit out, to cover their asses, and it's
yeah.
Johnny?
I don't even know how you can confuse
like
this and this.
You can't.
You have the neon yellow.
Yeah,
if you're afraid and you just pulling the first thing, then you don't need to be out there in the first place.
Right.
I 100% agree with that. If that is the case, and then on top of that, I think that she was a trainer or she was a veteran.
She was a veteran officer. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say, Johnny. I was going to say the fact that they keep emphasizing the fact that this was either, she was a trainer, whatever her title was, but they're supposed to be trained police. They're trained to act accordingly when certain, things happen or whatever occur. But you're going to tell me on this given day. Okay, cool.
Okay, wait.
Cool.
What happened?
Y'all know how dramatic I am. It just really doesn't make sense to me. It don't.
It's not going to make sense.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's not. It is the system that is set up and has been running rampant for years, but now because of social media, the whole world is looking at it and it's like, oh wait, you're the country that's supposed to be the home of the brave.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are steady doing motherfuckers in left and right.
Okay.
Y'all got Hispanic people locked up, snatching out their uteruses. Cops are shooting random black people for no reason. You got Karen out here getting her life.
Well, the reason is racism, right? It's like systematic racism. That's the reason.
Absolutely.
That's why
Indeed. At the end of the day, when you whittle it all down.
Yeah, and to Sean's point too, it's how can you trust someone to hold a gun and give them that power when their training is what it is too, So if we're not going to defund the police, and
I don't even think their training is like a year long.
Right, and also how can any training give someone the power like that to walk the streets and hold a gun to someone?
Right. You know what? And so while I have another one like this too, because I was going to do it at the end, but I'd rather go ahead and just flow it in with this one while we're on this topic. The next hot topic that I had was the one pertaining to the two cops that were stopping the I think he was a sergeant or lieutenant. I don't want to give him title,
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant.
but I think it was a lieutenant. They stopped him and they end up wanting him to
Threatening
get,
him,
arresting him
like
and wanting him to
really.
get out of the car, but they pepper sprayed him in the midst of doing all of that. But this is the like the fact that this man had his uniform on. And he literally had his hands out the window. I don't know if you guys seen the video. We were going to play the video, but I think it's very disturbing to some of us. I just can't. It just really disturbs me the fact this man had his hands out the window. He's not any threat at all. And the uniform.
It's the uniform for me.
Like, did you think
No,
did
what
you
it
think he was going to a costume party or something? Like, I'm
right.
confused.
When the man said, "I don't feel comfortable getting out of the car," and the dude said, "You shouldn't. You need to be afraid."
Y'all know this one hit close to home for me because I went to school with this young man. So, I just saw that again. I'm just like, wow, like that's crazy.
Justice, I didn't know you went to school with him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the office, yeah.
Yeah.
We was talking about it in the
The
office.
officer?
The lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a second lieutenant.
I thought the officer was an old man. And I just kind of feel like I think not Justice. Oh my gosh, sorry. Jesse had brought it up in regards to the racism and systematic racism and systematic racism. But I also like, how like and it's been a while because of COVID, it's kind of messed things up. But you know how like we've had yearly trainings that we would do that talks about the implicit bias and things like that, and how and even sometimes I have been in these trainings, right? I remember the first one I went in and didn't even know about implicit bias or my own implicit bias, or bias that I put on other people or even my own culture.
Right.
I did not things that was not recognized, was not in my face. And once I did that training, it was just mind blowing to me on how
it is.
on how like common actually it is, right? And I think that the same effort and initiative that we're taking as nonprofit organizations to go in and serve populations and go in and actually and holding each other accountable and calling each other out as it relates to implicit bias. Why is these trainings not being done in the police departments?
Right.
That is something that needs to be done there, more so than anything. And I think that we as the people,
no national regulations for the police. Why is there no standard? Why is there no checks and balances? Why do the police have military grade equipment? Some of these motherfuckers have got tanks that they bought in military surplus auctions.
Yeah. So like I think that I was watching a video like 5-10 minutes ago, and it was this man in North Carolina, and he goes around to different police departments and challenge them or things like that. And it was like he was standing on a public property, and he had a firearm on him, black man, and he's recording. The only thing he's been doing is recording, right? And so the police comes, and it's like 5, 6, 7 police officers that comes and like pretty much circles him, and he's like, why does it take all of you guys to come in and have a conversation with me? I'm confused. Right. Why is your gun on your hand? Things like that. What is your name? I'm confused. And he was like, because I can put my gun on my hand. Oh, okay. I'm not talking to you, so let me just talk to y'all, things like that. And then they was trying to explain. They was trying to strong arm him, saying that this is private property. He was like, no, this is not private property. This is public property. I pay for this for my tax dollars and things like that. And so it was. So he ended up walking away from the situation because once he started talking like, this is not private property, it's public property. I have the right to bear arms. Things like that. I'm not doing anything suspicious. Why are you coming to me, questioning me? Am I being detained? Am I being arrested? Goodbye. And things like that. And sometimes we don't understand that we have that power. And what happens is that when it was, thank God, it was in a public spot, right? And and some of these things that we've seen over the years have been in public, so I can't even rest and say that and be secure and actually say that honestly. It's been in the broad daylight, so I take that back. But just so happened, this person was recording already in in the sunlight. I mean, and sometimes everybody don't have that same option. I was also listening to the radio yesterday morning, and it's like, and I started tearing up a little bit because it's like now I feel like if I get stopped by the police, the first person I'm calling is my mama, so she could be on the phone, right? If something was to happen, I need her to know immediately, so she can take action and figure out, things like that, and not necessarily take action in a negative way, but making sure that she knows what happened and nobody else can kind of form and narrate and actually tell my story.
And that's really powerful, Johnny, too, that you call your mom. I mean, from what we've seen in the media, too, it's like that's who you'd want to be with if something happened that was beyond verbal aggression.
Yeah. Right. And so I was just thinking, so all of this has kind of brought me back to say, it is important that we know that it's important to know just general basic information about where you at, what you're doing, and things like that, so that you can articulate that and not feel threatened. However, even when you are articulate and you are challenging them, that can be the end of your life. So it's so hard to just say knowledge is power, because that's not all it is.
That's why when they say knowledge, they mean know the law, know your rights. Basic shit. You don't have to talk shit, but sir, no, I'm not getting out of the car. I'm only going to crack my window 2 inches. Here's my shit. Mm-hmm. Give me my ticket and leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm not getting ready to entertain anything. Here you go.
Right, but I also
seen the window back up because you don't have to talk to them.
Yeah, but I have also seen a police officer reaching into somebody's car, opening the door and unbuckling their seatbelt. So even that's just that you cannot just rest on
that. Means your guns drawn all the way down instead of 2-inch crack. Like I said, why would you have the window all the way down? I don't need to talk to you. You're getting 2 inches, bro. Enough for me to hand you this license and this registration.
Thank you,
Johnny. That's a really good point too, because knowledge is power if you are white, right? In this scenario. Like knowledge isn't always power because it's not equitable by nature.
Right.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And it's, you can know and do all the actions, but we've seen clearly that it doesn't pan out well.
It doesn't always pan out right.
Because of racism and
Right. And you also see that video of that white lieutenant strong arming the black boy in the neighborhood. And I don't know the background to this. I just seen the video and I haven't really dug up because everything kind of happened at once. It tends to happen that way. But I have a question for you guys. You guys feel like that, the last couple of rounds of this happening, by way of the last two events, we've kind of lost, last year, it was. It was a lot more force, a lot more power, a lot more protesting and things like that, and a lot more.
They locked in the house and couldn't get away from it.
Right. So you kind of feel like it has
more fear now with that. Now, I think people are more scared now of what could happen in acting that way behind these certain situations now. But even still, though, I mean, I can't even really say that because even with the young boy, the people, they standing in front of the man's house with signs and with stuff, and he don't got locked up. So
he did get locked up.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't know,
I think that we didn't see enough change. Really, have we seen any change is the question for people to say my efforts are working. You know?
Right.
I remember
outrage is good and protest is good, but what is actually getting done?
Right.
I've been listening to this and seeing this since I was in 7th grade. Literally. I'm 45. What the fuck? Nothing has changed. All of the press and everything that you got last summer, there still hasn't been a change. Biden talks a good talk, but that motherfucker ain't doing shit either.
vibration.
Right?
I'm thinking somebody's doing it with their mouth. Like, what
No.
is that?
Oh my goodness.
No,
That is
it's
a hard vibration.
my Bluetooth is connected to my phone and my computer.
Oh my
Sorry.
God.
Oh, I thought it was Sean.
No, not at all.
So I think that because and I think we joked about it yesterday. I think Jess joked about it yesterday. This could be a topic that we can talk about all and take up the whole time. So I think we're gonna just stop right here if everybody's kind of got to have articulated their thoughts. Justice, we didn't really hear much from you. Did you have anything to kind of add or say? I didn't want to skip over you. I know we talked this weekend
because it's too close to home for me, so I can't even put the words together. So
okay.
Understood.
No problem. Understood. Definitely understood. What was your last?
My last one, you guys. I don't know if anybody else watches the Olympics like I do. When they come
I love
on,
the Olympics.
Sure
the
do.
new Olympics will be actually debuting skateboarding, BMX, bike riding. I think they're going to be surfboarding, karate, and I don't know if I'm leaving one out.
You said
surfing?
Huh?
You said surfing?
Surfing, karate, yeah, BMX. Yep.
That's gonna be fun.
I'm more excited about seeing like the BMX like surfing. Like I want to know how they want to like do the whole surfing part. Like how how we were discussing it earlier. We were saying they're gonna do it like in the actual like.
Unless they do one like the Carowinds thing where they can build something that they can make the waves in.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only way that I would think they'd be able to pull that off in Tokyo.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the waves outside of the island.
I don't know. I wish I could add to this conversation. I don't know anything about the damn Olympics.
Do you watch them for fun?
You don't watch
besides basketball.
You don't watch the Olympics?
No.
It's in my calendar.
Like nothing.
Is it really in your calendar?
Like yeah, everything is in my calendar.
I gymnastics. Love it, need it, want it. Gymnastics.
I must say gymnastics is my favorite. Like that's my favorite. I love
sprinting. Oh my God. Those gazelles that are running out there are doing the things.
The who? Those who?
Gazelles.
What do you call the girls that do the little like synchronized dancing in the water?
Synchronized swimming.
Artist.
Baby, they don't play.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like real. And when you look at it, you're thinking to yourself, how are you holding your breath?
Right. Ooh, that's my first question.
And still,
like, girl.
So precisely, like it is. It's flawless. Like that is talent. I would love to see one of those shows in person. Like,
okay,
it'd be amazing.
Have you? Okay, so about the karate part of the Olympics. So like, what is that?
I thought they already did a martial art. What is it? Judo? Did they do?
I don't remember seeing martial. I think they do.
Don't they do fencing?
They do the regular boxing.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Fencing's been there for a while.
Yeah. That is weird.
Diving is my favorite.
Ooh.
Diving is just hot girl summer.
Okay.
Not hot girl summer.
When I first started watching the Olympics and I would see them do the diving, I was like, oh, they get to jump in the water. And then you get on your first high dive and you think that you're about to do this fabulous dive, 10 feet in the air. And nobody tells you. That's not how that works.
When I
getting that whole body smack on the water, that shit hurts.
So while you on that, let me tell you a story. I was in a swimming pool and I was trying to be cute because I felt like I really knew what I was doing. I wanted to be a swan. Like I knew I could really get on this diving board and really dive in the water. So y'all, first of all, let's disclaimer: Sean doesn't know how to swim. Okay, let's just stop there first. Let's get that out the way. I don't even know how to swim, so I don't know what I was feeling this day or who was in front of me that I was trying to show out in front of.
That was not the move.
The diving board was real high. So when I got up there and I looked down, I didn't realize how far I was up from the water. So I try to be cute and try to like do a little bounce. And I was like, maybe I'm just gonna like fall into the water like feet first. I literally slammed and hit my back, y'all, on the like water, like, and literally I just let myself sink to the bottom of the pool, like.
It hurts, like
bad.
It really hurts.
That's still cute.
It really hurts.
That is crazy.
Oh my God.
Oh my
I know how to
goodness.
float. That's as good as you're gonna get with me.
Okay. That's
You get
about
a
it.
float.
That's what you got me. Give me the little noodles and stuff to put in the pool.
Not noodles. Not the pool noodles.
Well, yes, you guys, that's wrapping it up. We'll listen to who?
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
Well,
All right. All right. So today, hold on. So today we have a topic that we're gonna talk about. You know, I'm from New York and whatever.
So we're gonna talk about it.
And we're gonna talk about and
I heard you.
and I just kind of feel like I just I have a question for the audience. I just have a question for it. And I just if you're watching, please answer. Please give us a yes or no and things like that. And don't give me an answer that you think that I want to hear. Give me your honest opinion. Do you think HIV is still relevant? And if you do, why? I'm gonna let y'all ponder on that question. Is HIV still relevant? Okay. Now that I gave you time to ponder, let's talk about it.
How you doing?
How you doing? Let's really talk about it.
So, in order for us to measure the relevancy of HIV, I want to take us back. Let's take us. I want us to take us back to the beginning. So there's a part of the HIV health, a part of the HIV/AIDS history that we like to outline and say it's the silent spread. What we know now is that HIV has been around as I think as early as 1969 on paper again. However, the first documented case we have is 1981. But between 1970 and 1981, we like to call it the silent spread. And our first, like I said, our first documented case was 1981. And there was so much confusion in regards to how HIV is spread. What is HIV? It wasn't even a name for HIV. It was actually called a cancer.
Sarcoma.
And it was just a lot of confusion. And one of the things that sticks out to me, I remember is the 4 H's. Somebody said no.
What are the 4 H's?
The 4 H's, because I am a very passionate person. I do not want to monopolize this conversation. So can somebody explain or talk about going to the 4 H's? And I don't mind doing it myself.
I can start, and if I'm
Jesse.
So the 4 H's were kind of a way to identify people who spread HIV, right? Just to simplify it for the public, or to kind of stigmatize and point blame, I think you could say. So the 4 H's, I believe, stand for heroin users, hemophiliacs, Haitians, basically meaning all non-white, darker skinned people, I guess, is how it was kind of boxed. And then homosexuals.
I never knew that.
And that, cool. And so those 4 H's are still really kind of hanging on a little bit with the stigma part, but we'll get to that.
Right. And so, like Jesse said, it was to necessarily point blame. It was to shame. It was to single out. It was to say that these people deserve this because they are Haitian, because they are homosexual, because they are heroin addicts. This is God is doing this to punish them. It got
really fast
and really like she said, ugly, really fast, really quick.
We had one of the senators in North Carolina that was one of those they get what they deserve, people. He was the one that stopped sex education in North Carolina. His name is Jesse Helms. He's a fuck boy. But he
Okay.
was on TV saying these things. Um, and that's something that I remember vividly hearing him talk about it when they were talking about doing resources for positive people. And he was like, no,
So
it's a whole lot of dick.
we got this. So we get the first documented case, the first documented. I have to say first documented or known case because, like I said, we've researched and got information that dates back way farther than that. However, 1981 and 1982 was the first time we was able to kind of recognize what HIV was. We didn't quite have a name for it yet, but we was recognizing that something is happening, and things like that, and we need to kind of further look into it. So I like to say between 1981 and 1982, we have the recognition period. What's going on? What's happening? People are dropping like flies. We don't know what's going on. We don't know how to treat people. Why are they getting sick? What are they getting sick from?
What do they all have in common?
What do they all have in common? Right. Which gave us those four H's, right? And those were um those were things that people was able to quickly identify, right? Not knowing all of the information and not knowing all of the not knowing the exposure categories, not knowing how people were exposed. They were just able to kind of place blame on those four H's. So then we go into
Really?
then we
Go
go
ahead.
into okay. Then we go into 1982 to 1985, which we finally give HIV a name. We finally give HIV, and wasn't. I'm sorry, and it wasn't HIV. It was AIDS first, right?
Right.
And it was known as the AIDS cancer or the gay cancer, AIDS. And what we know now is that AIDS is a stage of HIV. And so they was calling it AIDS. In case anybody other than me tell me what does AIDS stands for.
Autoimmune deficiency.
Yeah,
Autoimmune.
acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm
Acquired.
all wrong.
It's okay. No, it was just one word. It's okay. So
It's cool. It's
it's
cool.
cool. And things and um so repeat that one more time.
AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome.
Syndrome. So and the reason why I want him to repeat that is I wanted you to catch heed of the words that he was saying. In no way, shape, or form did we know that it was a virus. We didn't know that it was something that was spread. So we didn't know the origin of what AIDS was. We just know that it was something that was killing people off. Right. So between 1984 to 1985, we then discovered that this is actually a virus, which is HIV. Can anybody tell me what HIV stands for?
Human immunodeficiency virus.
Perfect. And so that now has the word virus inside of those acronyms because we didn't identify that it was a virus. It was something that people were being and I hate to say the word infected. They were people were being affected with um um which was HIV. So we found this out in 1984, around 1984, 1985, but we still did not know much about it. It was still the very early stages, so they were still doing. So there was no way to kind of not necessarily treat, track, and or diagnose. There was no way to kind of do that. Now we do things like the HIV testing and things like that, but they didn't have that. They didn't know to do that. So there was no way to kind of diagnose somebody with HIV yet. 1986 to 1988. And I'm sorry, I actually skipped a year. 1985. HIV blood testing was tested and became available to the public. Apologize. So 1985 is when the first Western blot test was made to detect HIV virus in the body. So people were then able to go get tested for the virus.
You know what's crazy about that, Johnny?
Mm-hmm.
81 to 87 in the U.S., there were only 50,000 deaths. 88 to 92, that shoots all the way up to 202,000.
And
it continued to go up and up and up and up
until like
even
1992 was like the first year that it like didn't increase. It was no increase in deaths, and it was no longer the leading cause of death until 1992. So from 1981 to 1992.
right. And I also want to point out that, so we talk about, and you brought up this year between 1986 and 1988. I like to call it the global mobilization period. But 1987 was the very first time that the president at that time frame even mentioned
right.
HIV, or even said it, or
That
even
was when
spoke about it
Reagan first acknowledged it.
publicly when it was first
Yep.
acknowledged. But we was well into 7 years of people
Right.
dying, and and for
Yep.
that to have not been something that was immediately brought about or had government officials attention. It was just weird for that to have gone on that long. In 1987, you decide to kind of talk about it, and it wasn't that. And honestly, I've heard the speech myself. It wasn't that much that was said.
Can I do that part? This is kind of like the effect of the 4-H's, right? Because they in marginalized communities, because he's not going to say anything because it's affecting these people that are already marginalized and no one cares about,
right.
in theory. But then when it clearly HIV starts to affect people that are not the 4-H's,
right,
then people are like, oh, like my white brother like has been affected. And then
we got to fix this. Yeah.
Right. Only
right.
That. Yeah.
Right.
Which is more the damage of the 4-H's.
Right. When we start, exactly, we start talking about our white brothers and or our white sisters, that were nurses, or they were working in the field and things like that, and not understanding why. It was a lot of different things, a lot of things. I think. Thank you for bringing it up, Jesse. That was a good point.
A lot of healthcare providers would not even see them, allow them in the hospital. They would put them in basements or in rest homes and then cover the whole room with plastic. Like, you weren't allowed in certain places. Like, it was fucked up.
Yeah.
Like, really, really fucked up.
I'm sorry, actually. So, 1986 is when the first treatment was released for HIV.
AZT?
And it was AZT. And I'm gonna have to go into that too. And and one of the things why this medicine is so important to this conversation is because the medicine was more toxic than living with HIV. People were literally dying off the side effects of the medicine as well, which is one of the reasons why I paused when Patrice said those numbers. Right, people were now getting medicine to treat HIV, but the medicines were so toxic in the body that people were dying literally off the medicine as well. But it was a start, and people fought for those meds, like these meds. So like I remember, when I say I remember, not when I was there, but I've always read about things like that, or been in panel conversations about things like this, where people were like breaking down doors and trying to get people to push these medicines to be released for people because people were literally dying. So it was like I can die by chance without medicine, or I can die on medicine, or I can die by chance with medicine. The options were very far in between, and things like that. And I also wanted to talk about, like what Patrice was saying, is that people weren't getting quality care and treatment. If any, doctors wouldn't see people. people's families would shun them and not want to see them, for the rest of their
Stick
journey.
them in rest homes.
People were in hospitals for the rest of their lives and not getting any visitors, all based off the stigma of HIV. And this is a very short version because we are very little, like short on time. Like I'm looking like the time, like, oh my gosh, we only got like 5 more minutes.
Right.
And whatever. But so this conversation, so I wanted to kind of bring it to the end of care conversation, and the end of life care conversation, which is people were literally in hospitals for months or a year at a time without any visitors, without people coming to see them, without even being touched, without gloves on and things like that, and that was that's nerve wracking, right? To know that you're going to die,
Heartbreaking.
nerve
That is
wracking and
heartbreaking.
heartbreaking. To know that you're going to die and not get a hug, or not, feel, like, you're cared for, or, that compassion. 1992, and I'm talking in regards to the Charlotte Mecklenburg region. It was a lady named Debbie Warren that seen this, and seen that people were dying and without quality care or without any care, and some people, like you said, without any care at all. And started creating these care teams, and and she started creating these care teams, and in these care teams they would go out to different hospitals and different organizations to sit with people all day, feed them, hug them, touch them, love on them, like human beings, what human beings need. And from these care teams she created an organization called RAIN. And it was a faith-based organization. And from 1992 to 1998, RAIN consisted of a bunch of different care teams around the world. By 1995, actually RAIN is recognized as one of the biggest networks of care teams across the nation. And So these people from different churches and things like that will go to the hospitals and sit with people and feed them and hug them and love on them and things like that, and allow people to kind of die with care and dignity. And they, and that was different in that time frame, but it was needed. Again, I don't want to monopolize this conversation, so please somebody chime in if you can and need to.
I remember so vividly this. I was 6 or 7 when a lot of this started. So I grew up watching this. I remember Reagan finally having to say something. I remember Pedro from the MTV shows. I remember all of it. I remember Arthur Ashe. I remember Ryan White. I remember as it went down, Michael Jordan. Like, there was just so many things that until Arthur Ashe got sick, it was something that was not talked about out loud, especially in the Black community. Black community can't even acknowledge LGBT people in the 80s. So they definitely are not trying to acknowledge HIV or AIDS. I remember people putting their kids in hospice or rest homes so they didn't have to see them, where these people would then stop taking any medication and just die because they did not want to embarrass their families.
And then you have people that were, trying to stay alive, and they were taking people's medicine. The people who were, dying and just, wasting away. You have people that were trying to stay alive, taking their medicines, just so they could stay alive, because AZT was like $10,000. I read that AZT was like $10,000, so it's not easily accessible. So shameful.
Yeah, and then you also have to look at, unfortunately, like you said, with you have a drug like that costs that much money, you started seeing changes in the numbers, both economically and racially. It became a big flip, like almost immediately.
Right.
It took about 10 years, maybe, for that flip to flip all the way over. But actually, well, yeah, from like the 80s right into the 90s, you started seeing it kind of drop back. Um,
And it's no longer a white man's disease. It's transitioning
nope.
to African
Yep.
American community because
Yep.
you
And
know,
once that happened, it went off the rails.
right,
um, it stopped being something that was talked about on a regular basis. It was no longer considered an epidemic in this country. Um, it amazes me when I first started here and found out how long ago PrEP actually came out because I'd never heard of it. I know a lot of people who had never heard of it, and it is so amazing to me that something like that was around that early
Mhm.
but wasn't even talked about or accessible in a
right.
lot of the circles and communities that I was
I
in.
mean, I even in school, like I was in flea biz because that was something that your parents had to, sign off on. I think we talked about that a little bit last week, but even in that program where we're supposed to be learning about sex education, and that's what it was, I never learned anything about HIV until, honestly, until I started, having to deal with it. It's something that's vaguely talked about, and it's not brought up in the Black community, so you don't really, have that. Okay, this is something I need to look
That
out for.
foundation of knowledge, that
You don't
basic.
you don't have any knowledge on it, and it's just like, oh, okay, I'll find out when I find out, and you end up having to go back and see how far it's coming. It's like I had no idea that this has been going on. So why is this not something that's in the forefront? If this is
Talked
still
about.
something that's affecting the world, why is this not something that's being brought into people's lives early on? Why are there people that aren't finding out about HIV until they're affected with it?
The
It's
same
not.
reason we don't have sex education. People are scared to talk about it.
So
And I don't understand how human beings are afraid to talk about sex when that's how we all got here. There are very few test tube babies walking around.
Right.
Test tube, baby.
but I think that
I
that
mean,
lack
it
of knowledge,
amazes me. I'm sorry.
that that lack of knowledge, is a main factor into, I guess, to segue into the next segment, to stigma. People are always gonna, talk about something that they don't know about. They're gonna fear what they don't understand, and if they don't, want to understand it, that's where you get stigma from. So because this isn't being brought out, early on, and people aren't, educated on this early on, when they've already developed a sense of, what it's supposed to be, when you bring something like this on and, accompanied by the stigma that society has put on it, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, ill, ill, disgusting. You
Right.
got HIV, ill. You still have people on, apps in their bios, no pause, no this, no that, and it's okay to have your, preferences, but things like that add to the stigma because it's like now you're, making somebody who, has a situation that's out of their control. Now you're making them feel less than. You're contributing to the stigma when you put things out like that. It's
Mhm.
not something to be ashamed of. It's sex. It's natural. People just so scared to
It's what God intended. Aha!
people so scared to have a conversation. We
Hearing
grown.
that come out of your mouth
I
to
think
truth is so good.
I think what really, since the civil rights era and all of the so-called leaders of our culture were assassinated or murdered, that the Black church has been the entity that has stepped up and kind of have been the lead in the culture and in the house homes of most Black people, but they flat out refuse to have a lot of conversations in it. And this is one of those conversations. I was just on a in a group with people who were trying to get churches in Charlotte to have HIV 101 sessions in their churches. Do you know how many people we got? And one of them was a LGBTQ church.
Mhm.
And there are churches on every corner in this fucking city.
Right. So
Um,
we had one person comment that HIV is no longer relevant, which is the question that we posed today. And I think going against that is stigma, right? But then, like the caption here says, shame, resilience. There's the flip side of that, where you have a whole group of people coming out who are living with HIV or who are not, and they're just like ready to talk about it. You know, they're ready to own their status and own testing and knowing their status. And so I think that's maybe the line of thinking, that it's not relevant anymore because people are more comfortable talking about it, and that stigma is kind of going
I think it's people living longer as well. You know, you don't have, it's no longer a death sentence per se. It is very much, a lot of the positive people I know are some of the healthiest people I know. It's very upsetting.
Baby.
But I mean, like you were saying, I remember the first time I went to get an HIV test, and you know, I'm kind of, okay, let's try it out. But when I sat down, the nurse was asking me the questions, and after she finished filling out her paper, she looked at me and she said, "Why are you taking this test?" I said, "Because I'm a Black female and single, and I'm out here doing me. What do you mean?"
Mhm.
Well, I just don't understand why you would come in here and take it. Oh, okay. Well, you don't have to. Tap this vein, please.
Okay.
You have no idea what's going on.
What happens
Tap
though?
this vein.
Yeah.
Right. And I do as it relates to resilience, like Jesse said, there are times where I did a podcast in 2000 in I don't remember 2011 I want to say, and it was it was very much the same thing that Patrice and Jesse was just talking about, is that people are living longer. Only thing they're doing now at this particular point is taking one pill once a day, and going about their day. You know, like just like brushing their teeth every morning. And I was posed with the question that that kind of resonated with me and the doctor that I was on the podcast with, was, is that the new normal? And it was a double-edged question, because I didn't understand. I understood what he was saying. Are we normalizing that? Like, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't explain how I want to say it, because it was like, you have HIV and you have diabetes and things like that, right? So I think, we've all said, why does the diagnosis or the shame and or the stigma and or the conversations and or the guilt has to be different? Like, we're not shaming people for having diabetes, you know, things like that. We're not shaming people for having cancer that they can't control, things like that, you know.
But
So
you don't get that from sex.
yeah, right.
It's about the sex.
Right. So, so if all it takes is if a person's catching HIV is them taking one pill once a day and going about their day, what's the big fucking deal, right? And that was the question that he was honestly asking. And I don't honestly don't. I think the doctor took this answer and said, while yes, right, we do understand that, you know, that this example is a good way to kind of chip away at stigma and shame. We also want people to understand that, or give people resources and information that it's still out here, because like, we can go that route and make it be and actually make it the new normal, but the conversation can't stop, or we can't the knowledge can't stop, right? Because then we all be out here, you know, catching HIV and things like that, which is, you know, it is what it is. There's no problem, but we also want to give people the tools to protect themselves and live life fully, with or without HIV.
As you guys can see, we can sit here and talk about this topic and the layers of this onion.
Right.
Forever.
It's just a tip.
This is something that, right, this is just the tip. Leading into Jesse's segment.
Thanks, Patrice.
Thanks, Justice.
Are we doing a flyer or anything?
Yes.
Or should I just talk?
No, hold
I
on.
tell you what.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready because like Jesse did that so smooth. Just the tip.
You missed that whole conversation. Oh, I love it. Come on, Jesse.
Do I start now? I can't see anyone yet. There we go.
Hey.
Hi. So just the tip. It's been a while. I feel like we need a jingle for each segment, Justin. Is that possible, do you think?
Yes, it is.
That'd be
We'll
fun.
figure it out.
Yeah, different beats. All right, just the tip. So I attended a conference last week, the American College of Sports Medicine, and I saw a speaker talk about, I think her presentation was centered on how exercise and eating, the E in each, stand for enjoyment. And it's this whole concept that we move our bodies and eat for joy, and to sustain our lives and living enjoy. And she brought up that people are so invested instead in making the best food choices or the good food choices that they're going to such extremes. And she brought up an example that all these products are now limiting the ingredients in their food to minimize the ingredients in their ingredient list on the food labels.
Yeah.
So that these clean eaters will then buy their product because they only see, 3 or 4 ingredients on the label. But what they're actually doing is taking out some of the important vitamins and nutrients that you need in your food, like iron and calcium. And I just thought that was really fascinating. And so, of course, I went down the rabbit hole, and I pulled up this article called "The Most Misleading Claims," and it's a Healthline article. If anyone ever reads Healthline, it's very informative. But it's this list of health claims on packaged food that are designed to catch your attention and convince you that it's healthy.
All organic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Non-GMO.
Right. And so one of my favorite ones here is that's just really like completely mind-blowing to me. So if it says natural on the package, it does not necessarily mean that the product resembles anything natural. It simply indicates that at one point, the manufacturer worked with a natural source like apples or rice.
Wow.
Like worked with, not even in the product.
That sounds like Walmart.
Wow.
So
that's just the tip. It's being mindful of what we're eating and where we get our sources. And the mindful part is not forgetting to enjoy our food.
And to add to that, not necessarily to add to it, but like to go directly with what you're just saying.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching this thing about dog food.
Mm-hmm.
It is very, very similar to what you said. Like, and it was this doctor talking about like how these leading dog brands are giving you crap, showing you pictures of like the fish, the salmon, and like the actual chicken on the packaging, and saying it's all natural products and things like that. And they showed you how those little kibbles are actually made and the dye they put in it, and how all of that is harmful to the dog. So all of this product that they're putting to make these kibbles is like by the time that
everything.
By the time that it was natural, it is nowhere near shape or form natural at all anymore. And things like that, and that just goes to speak to how our food is done, right? Like Jesse was saying, something can be natural in the beginning, one apple and
the sugar and everything. Read the labels.
Right. And
it's in your spices.
This is tangential, but like marketing ploys like skinny popcorn and like slim fit foods or whatever.
Slim fast.
Yeah, I just think it's such bullshit when you're like walking down and you're seeing like skinny pop, and you're like, I don't need that. I don't need that in my face. Yeah,
it's just like that skinny. There's a whole brand called Skinny Girl that's an alcohol brand.
Yes, it is.
It's supposed to have less calories in it than regular alcohol.
I drink it myself. Calm down.
But it's marketed for people who are just badly. If they want to drink, they're worried about the calories. The amount of calories in a shot is less than the calories in a whole beer. So,
right. But then we're forgetting the whole part of food that keeps us alive, right? And so then we're all hell bent on eating skinny pop instead of the popcorn brand.
Reading what's in the skinny pop.
Right. Instead of the popcorn brand
that tastes good, that we like to share with our friends and family, you know. And then,
it's the same thing, right? Is that what you're saying?
So you're saying
yeah, we skip over what brings us joy just
the
to get
enjoyment of it.
Got you.
I love pastries, but I can't eat them because I get way too excited.
So is your messaging today? Is it basically just saying that? Because I think my question to you and anybody can kind of chime into as well. Is like, first, how do we know what we're eating as it relates to us flipping the back, you know, with the nutrition facts? And is that something that we should be looking at? And is that accurate? Or B, fuck it, eat what we want and learn how to, I guess,
find a balance.
Yes, thank you for that. Thank you, Patrice.
Working out and eating. Yeah.
For me, there's no like hard and fast rule with eating, because as soon as you say like do this or don't do that, you're in the realm of disordered eating, and then you never know who that affects and how that affects them and how that shows up in everyone's lives. So I think do what works for you, you know, find the food that tastes good and that doesn't harm you, and call it a day. I think there is a balance, but that looks different for everyone.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, hell, sometimes whenever you go to Walmart, I still shop at Walmart for those on here who doesn't. But whenever you go to Walmart, and I'm not non-Walmart and customer shaming, but whatever. But for those who but for me that goes to Walmart and buy the apples in a bag, you know, even I don't even feel like that has a natural component, because it's like it tells you like it's been. You start looking stuff up. It's like sprayed with this and. It
doesn't even taste like a real apple. Like that's my whole thing with grocery store vegetables. And
how does the apple taste, Patrice?
You know that the vegetables out of the Food Lion taste different than the vegetables at the farmer's market. Don't act like that.
Yes,
baby.
Definitely did.
You know, I don't know because it's been a long time since I shopped at a farmer's market. It's been years, and you know, I am a person of me that shop at Walmart.
Me.
And by all my and
I grew up eating fresh vegetables. It's difficult for me to do. Like it just doesn't taste good to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so you know, like there were times when we go to the country, we call it the country, and go pick like fruits and apples. One things that we did as a kid. As an adult, I have not experienced that. Right, so
we're going apple picking this year. Okay.
So an apple at Walmart and the strawberries at Walmart that's been sprayed with that little nasty spray water, is it for me. That's what I know what it tastes like, you know.
Yeah.
So that was it.
Funny.
That was it with just the tip. I know we over time. Before we dismiss, I do want to just say, because we transitioned.
I'm sorry.
Stay engaged in the conversation. Stay engaged in the conversation about what you're eating, how you're eating. Also, stay engaged in the conversation as it relates to HIV. And this conversation is still relevant. How you can do this is by taking away, like, we're challenging you guys to go home or be at home and sit your people down, sit your friends groups down whenever you're having cocktails, a girls' night, a boys' night, and just spark up a conversation about HIV or about sex. Let's start off with sex.
Healthy sexual behavior.
Healthy sexual behaviors, right? Because I feel, I know you guys heard me say before that we're skipping a step if we're gonna not talk about sex and just talk about HIV.
Right.
So just start somewhere, and that's how we can engage in these conversations. And I think HIV what naturally comes up when you talk about sex or talk about healthy sex practices, because that does come with prevention and how to treat yourself and what it means to be a healthy sexual. And this also goes along with this, just the tip, because have you ever tasted bad nut?
What?
Yes.
Oh, I done shook the fucking table, bitch. I love it.
Yes. Let's get down to it. Yes, I'm gonna need you to put the 40s, the hamburger, all that stuff down, sir, and get you some fruit and fresh vegetables in your life.
Have you ever tasted bad cum?
It was gross.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's too salty.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, stop playing, Jess. Stop playing with us. Bye. So that's how, and I just found a little unique way to tie just the tip conversation to keeping healthy sexual conversations relevant. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and let you guys go. But we don't leave without a nice little tip from the outreach team, and that is getting tested.
It's sexy.
It's sexy.